This Women's World Cup is filled with powerhouse national teams, like the Matildas, who played a warm-up game in front of more than 50,000 spectators.
Australia 1, France 0.
Team USA, whose top guns are some of the biggest stars in American sports.
England have conquered Europe.
And England, champions of Europe last year. In country after country, women's football is now serious business.
It's the women's football revolution in Australia.
There's been a huge uplift, particularly in Europe, but in a number of countries across the world as well, Australia being one, where you've seen a massive shift, I would say, ideologically in the attitudes towards the sport.
Suzanne Rack is one of the top women's football writers in the UK. She believes the rise of the women's professional game, particularly in Europe, means this World Cup will be the most competitive ever.
Might open up Groningen, yes! Groningen fires the Netherlands in front!
You look at the last World Cup and 7 of the final 8 teams in the tournament are European sides, and the only one that isn't is the US. And so there's been a real big sort of push in Europe to catch the US and start to close that gap. It's not closed yet, but it's a lot closer than it was.
But the gap in funding still exists between the giants of women's football and countries like Jamaica. The Reggae Girlz, as they're known, have been training in suburban Melbourne. They are playing in their second World Cup ever with one of the biggest stars in women's football, Bunny Shaw.
Ever since I was a kid in Jamaica, I only ever wanted to score goals.
Bunny Shaw, and she will score for Manchester City.
Shaw's header, and that's due to.
And Bunny Shaw could well have given her team all 3 points here at Broadfield Stadium.
She may be a star for Manchester City, but she plays for a national team that's had to scramble just to get here. Last month, she and other Jamaican players took to social media to call out their football federation for a lack of financial support. We have showed up repeatedly without receiving contractually agreed-upon compensation. This will undoubtedly impact our preparation for Australia. Now that the Reggae Girlz are here, they say their focus is strictly on the pitch.
It's a massive difference between, Man City and the national team. I think the lack of resources that we have within our country, and not just our country, within the Caribbean, compared to, what it's like in England. But, the situation is what it is. Like I said, we try to just focus on the football aspects, and then, hopefully everything takes care of itself.
You've got, like you're saying, Jamaica funding their way to the tournament just to be able to have somewhere to stay and have somewhere to train that is of a relatively okay standard. So yeah, it will show on the pitch.
But Suzanne Rack believes it's crucial teams still struggling for support are here.
The expansion of the World Cup to 32 teams from 24, which means that there's 8 debutants at this tournament, is a huge step forward. It really gives them an opportunity to push for growth and change and investment in their country and an engagement in women's football in a way that maybe hasn't been seen there before.
American-born Kayla McKenna is just one of many Reggae Girlz from Jamaica's broad diaspora. This is her first World Cup.
Obviously, the women's game is growing all around the world, but it's growing at different rates and different speeds, depending. And I think coming into Jamaica, it's growing at a different speed, but it's still growing nonetheless. And so it's good to be a part of it. And everyone that is in the squad has played in Europe, has played in America, has played in all different places.
At this World Cup, this is a scene that will be repeated at training grounds in host cities across the country. A chance for young players to see the best in the world up close.
What does it mean for you to be able to come and see a World Cup team like this train?
Really inspiring, I guess, for me, for my team, to get better, to obviously see them train is just amazing, and I think it's just a really good opportunity.
Thank you.
These players know they don't just represent their country, They represent a sport that just gets bigger and bigger every year.
I think as players, everyone here just wants to leave it better than when we got here for the next generation, for everybody looking up to us, for everyone, boys and girls alike, to be like, I want to play at that level one day, I want to be there one day, and to let everybody know that they absolutely can.